Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's your man Aaron Absolute giving you my 2020 NFL mock draft. Let's be clear, there are going to be a lot of trades. I don't care what they tell you about this being a virtual draft, there's going to be a lot of movement. There will be a minimum of 5 trades in the first round. One of them may be the number one pick. I seriously doubt it, but it's always possible simply because it's the number one pick. So teams looking to move up are the Patriots, the Dolphins. Everybody's moving up for a quarterback. The only one with the draft capital, in my opinion, is the Miami Dolphins. They have a lot of picks at their disposal, so there could be a situation where they move up to get Joe Burrow or whoever they believe is the best quarterback in the draft. But with that being said, first pick for me is Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. Of the LSU Tigers going to the Cincinnati Bengals. So for me, Joe Burrow, 6'3", 221, is a very accurate quarterback. Has a lot of timing, throws, very good ball placement. He's mobile, very good to play action, lots of confidence. This dude is not short on confidence at all. Um, the con for me is he doesn't have a big arm, and he needs to be in a timing system. If you watch a lot of the play calling at LSU, the scheme was based on timing. Everybody had to be at the right place at the right time. Um, when it came time to ad lib, that's when some things fell apart. But with NFL talent on the offensive line and at all the skill positions, it made it a little easier. This was great timing by all of the coaches and players involved on that LSU team with their historic run to a national championship. Um, my pro comparison for him is Tony Romo. Solid player, around about the same build, average to good arm, does well with talent around him, and is good with the play action pass. Number two for me is Chase Young. Now, Washington is entertaining trading out of this second pick. But again, it's going to take a lot to come up to number two, and then you'd be passing up on Chase Young. Now, if Washington trades down but stays in the top 5, they could get more draft picks and still end up with Chase Young. Chase Young is also, I believe he may be the only defensive player taken in the top 10. I do believe there will be a run on wide receiver, quarterback, and offensive tackle. But since I don't believe more than 50% that Washington will trade out of the second pick, with the second pick, I would take Chase Young, 6'5", 265. In 2018, he had 10 and a half sacks. In 2019, he had 16 and a half with 7 forced fumbles. That's the good thing about Chase Young. Not only does he get sacks, he gets strip sacks. He had more forced fumbles last year than he had this entire collegiate career. Plus, learning behind the Bosa brothers, that's a good way to start an NFL career. He's very quick, very athletic, has a lot of power. Um, the only thing I think he needs to improve on is his hand skills. He doesn't use a lot of hands when he's pursuing quarterbacks. He relies on athleticism and power. If he applies great hand skills, he'll be in the backfield all the time at the NFL level. My NFL comparison for him is he's somewhere in between Miles Garrett, but if he puts it all together, he could be a lot closer to Julius Peppers. For me, number 3, I believe the number 3 pick from Detroit will be traded to the San Diego Chargers. Detroit has needs at corner and at defensive line. The Chargers have 3 starters at corner, and they want to move up to secure a quarterback. So they can always swap picks and send Detroit a a cornerback, and a few other draft picks to move up to number 3. And I believe with the number 3 pick, the San Diego Chargers will take Justin Herbert. This is a guy they wanted last year, but he decided to stay in school another season. Um, I think he's a very good quarterback. 6'6", 230, and he performed very well with limited to no NFL talent at the wide receiver and running back position. He's a very big athlete at 6'6", has a great deep ball, makes all the throws, and he's very good at ball placement. He can zip the ball in between coverages, in between defenders, very good pocket awareness. He does need to improve on his techniques, which will automatically improve on his accuracy. His accuracy issues to me doesn't have anything to do with a lack of ability, but with more so a lack of coaching. My NFL comparison for him is I believe he's Drew Bledsoe with speed. And as we saw in the Rose Bowl game, the guy can run. I think the New York Giants stay at number 4. I think they listen to draft picks. I don't think they waver. But if they do, they are not going to go too far away from the 4th pick. I believe they'll stick with offensive line, get some help for their young quarterback. I believe they'll take Tristan Wirfs, a very athletic offensive tackle from Iowa. If you want to get offensive linemen, start in the Big Ten. That's a good place to look. 6'5", 320 pounds, and put on a show at the combine. Very fast, very quick, very powerful, and is a very good puller. He's a very good pull blocker. He's great in space. He's great at getting up and blocking at the 2nd level, and very good at getting to the 3rd level on a lot of screens, different plays like that. If he does not work at offensive tackle, which I believe he'll be better at right tackle than left, he can do either one. He's played right tackle and left tackle, but I would not be surprised if he makes the Pro Bowl at guard, only because he is such a good pull blocker. The con on him is he can be a little bit of a waist bender, and he has trouble with speed to power moves from defensive linemen. He could always improve his footwork, but my comp for him is Lane Johnson. Number 5, I believe, will be Miami. This is the guy they were tanking for with the whole tanking for Tua type thing. And I don't think they have to trade up to get him unless they just feel it's absolutely necessary. I believe Miami can stay where they are and still get the guy they want, which is Tua. And at 6'1", 218, 3-year starter. He's very accurate, very calm, very poised in the pocket, a lot of pocket presence, great awareness, leader. And he leads his receivers well with the type of throws that he makes. He runs well enough. He's not a super athlete, but he's certainly not a terrible one. He's very mobile, good decision maker. The problem with him is going to be the injuries, the hip, the 2 ankle surgeries, the knee as a freshman. Holds the ball too long, and doesn't know when to let the play go and live to fight another day. Most of his injuries occurred when he was scrambling and trying to get away from defenders. He needs to just get rid of the ball and just prevent injuries. He's not fast enough to outrun defensive linemen in college. Therefore, you won't be able to do it in the pros unless it is schemed that way. Which brings me to my comparison, who is very well at running out of the pocket, but that, of course, is scheme. Does a lot of bootlegs. And that's Russell Wilson. I believe he'll fall somewhere between Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. That's just what he is. He's a 6'1", 200-plus pound quarterback who is very accurate, can make intermediate throws, and can also hit the long ball. So, not quite the athlete that Russell Wilson is, but more of an athlete than Drew Brees is. But landing in between 2 Hall of Famers, and hey, is what it is. So again, I believe Detroit and San Diego will trade spots. So that means Detroit picks at number 6. And with the San Diego trade, this allows them to get the corner, get a veteran at corner, and then fill another gaping hole, literally, at a defensive tackle with Derek Brown, the 6'4", 322-pound defensive tackle out of Auburn. Extremely disruptive player. I believe he fits in a 3-4 or in a 4-3 scheme. Does a great job at blowing up centers and guards. And the good thing about him is he's very fast for a tackle. He's quick. He changes directions very well. He's great at the point of attack, and he has the ability to redirect. The only knock on him is a lot of people want to see more production. People determine defensive line greatness with sacks, but sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes being disruptive and running a quarterback into someone else is almost the same as getting a sack. My comparison for him, oh well, he would be the best defensive line prospect since Ndamukong Suh in Detroit. I don't think he's another Ndamukong Suh, maybe a poor man Suh, but for me, he's a lot closer to a heavier Geno Atkins. But of course, Geno is productive in the sack department. But I think, with the right tutelage, he could get there. With number 7, I know I said I think Derek Brown. I'm sorry. Um, Chase Young would be the only defensive player taken in the top 10. But there's always a chance that he won't be. So I do think Carolina will take Jeff Okudah, cornerback out of Ohio State. So at 6'1", 205, very fast, very physical, has great coverage skills, can literally play in any system. So he can play press man, off man, zone, whatever you want to do, he can do it. He's great against the run. And the only knock on him is that people wish he had more picks. But sometimes when you're a great cover corner, you don't get picks because people aren't throwing the ball at you. So I don't knock him for not having picks. He's a do-it-all corner. He fits any system. And my comparison for him is Stephon Gilmore. Number 8. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think the Cardinals are going for offensive tackle. Of course, that would be wise. That makes sense. But pairing Kyler Murray with his former college teammate and CeeDee Lamb makes a lot of sense to me. The Cardinals will draft as if Larry Fitzgerald retired. And he only has a 1-year deal. So there's great chance that getting CeeDee Lamb now allows him to learn from Larry Fitzgerald and from Hopkins. So to learn from two great receivers like that will only improve him as a receiver, and it creates a 1-2 punch when Fitzgerald does retire. And this would arguably be the best trio while Fitz is still here. So great route runner, very good at tracking the ball, can also be a good return man, very quick, and has a really good deep speed. My analysis for him is he's a great catch and run receiver, and in that scheme that they run, that Kingsbury runs in Arizona, is built on spreading you out and having capable receivers. So if you have all 3 of them, you can get offensive line help in the second round or trade up back into the first. My comp for him is Devontae Adams. At number 9, let's be clear, the Jags are tanking. They're losing on purpose, trading away all their players, hoping to get Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence. So all the Jags are going to do is they're going to select linemen, offensive linemen and defensive linemen. Nobody super talented that changes their win total. They're losing on purpose. It's obvious. So at 6'4", 312 pounds, I think they'll take Alabama tackle Jedrick Wills. It's very athletic, very smooth, very natural blocker. Of course, he could be a little quicker. He may be suited for right tackle instead of left. And my comparison for him is Brian Bulaga. At number 10, what most people consider their second favorite tight end, I'm sorry, tackle, even though I have him as the third offensive tackle, would be Mekhi Becton to the Cleveland Browns. At 6'7", 357 out of Louisville. He's very fast for his size. He has all the tools. He just needs to work on a few things. Needs to do a little more polishing. On his skills. He can be a little bit of he can give up leverage from time to time. He needs to clean up his feet and use his hands. He often relies on his body and you not being able to get past 6'7", 357. But in the NFL, pretty much everybody can get past that. But yeah, and plus he's used to blocking for mobile quarterbacks. So he'll be able to block and move around and still protect Baker Mayfield. My comparison for him is he's a quicker Trent Brown. At number 11, I believe we continue the run on offensive tackle. And the New York Jets select Andrew Thomas out of Georgia, 6'5", 315. He's a very good mirror blocker. What that means is when defenders are going left, right, speed, power, he does a very good job at mirroring what they do and staying in front of them. A very physical run blocker with very quick feet. The problem for him is he's a bit of a waist bender. He lunges sometimes at blitzers. In the NFL, that's going to get you beat. But I'm sure with the proper coaching, they'll clean that up. I liken him to an Andre Dillard, but a better run blocker than Dillard was coming out of college. At number 12, the Oakland Raiders. Again, I don't believe there are going to be too many defensive players taken in the top 10. Although Isaiah Simmons definitely should be. You could argue he's number one. You could argue he goes anywhere in the top 5. But here's the thing about Isaiah Simmons. At 6'4", 238, runs a 4.3, and has played multiple positions in college. Oftentimes, coaches and GMs want square pegs and square holes because they don't want to have to deal with trying to force a round peg into a square hole or vice versa. And some people prefer that you be a master of one trade than a jack of all. And that's what he is. He has hundreds of snaps at corner, safety, and linebacker. He won't play much middle linebacker. I don't think he should at all, but he could line up at technically middle linebacker in a nickel or a dime situation, only because he has such great cover skills. But in a 4-3 base scheme, no, he shouldn't be a middle linebacker. But he can do everything. The only real con on him is that he needs to do better at shedding blocks. But he does so many things well, it almost doesn't matter. And he's great off the edge. He can blitz on top of tackle, run sideline to sideline, and cover. He's good against the pass. He's good against the run. There's pretty much no flaw in his game. We often hear about guys being a mismatch on offense. Well, he's a mismatch on defense. I liken him to he's a combination. If you take Derwin James and a young Thomas Davis Sr., put them together and give him 4.3 speed, that's Isaiah Simmons. Deadly. So for me at 13, San Francisco 49ers, they don't need much, which means they can just pick the best available player. And considering they're going to have, they're very light at the receiver position, but they did see the effects of having a speed guy when they lost the Super Bowl. And they're going to draft somebody who reminds them of the guy who beat them. And that is Henry Ruggs III, receiver out of Alabama, 6'1", 192, and very damn fast. If I remember correctly, he ran a 4.27 at the combine. And he has elite speed. He has home run speed. He can stretch the field. And for a speed receiver, he's actually a good blocker. A lot of people don't really notice that about him. Very, but the con on him is he's not going to get you out of 50-50 balls. But with his speed and that San Francisco scheme, he shouldn't really be in a 50-50 ball situation. He should be in a bye-bye situation, as in bye-bye. Injuries can be a concern for him because he did have a couple of concussions in college, and he did have a situation with drops. But I do believe he could be a great number two receiver. My comparison for him is he's somewhere in between Deshaun Jackson and Tyreek Hill. Number 14 would be Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just signed Gronk, which we all should have known was happening. I know I did. That's why I had Brady going to Dallas because they would have automatically filled the hole at tight end because Gronk was going to follow him wherever he went. But the only thing I would add really to that offense is just depth on the offensive line. You're already very good with OJ Howard and Gronk at tight end. You have 2,000-yard receivers. I like their running back, but I think they're going to draft another one and have depth at running back. I think they're going to take Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is a superstar running back out of Wisconsin, 5'11", 216, and ran a 4.4 at the 40. People thought he was going to be slow. Oh, but no. He's a very power runner. He does a very good job at converting strength to speed when he runs. He has very quick feet, runs routes very well. He's a three-down back. Pass catching is going to be an issue. They don't throw the ball a lot at Wisconsin, so he doesn't have a lot of experience with it. He can catch. He's not a superstar with the hands, and he needs to work on blitz pickup. Again, they run the ball a lot at Wisconsin, so there wasn't a lot of third and long, and he had to pick up linebackers on a blitz. They were always in third and short. Um, and the good thing about him, there's not one bad report on Jonathan Taylor, and he's averaged over 3 years. He's averaged 2,058 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6.6 yards a carry on average over a 3-year career. He's had over 2,000 yards every year in college. And to top that, excuse me, not only has he never missed a game, he's never missed a practice. So that sort of throws out this whole durability concern and too much tread taken off the tires. The man has never been hurt in college football as a running back. That says a lot. And it takes a lot for me to say this, but my comparison for him is Marshawn Lynch. I don't believe he's going to be full beast mode, but he will be very close to it. At number 15 will be Javon Kinlaw for the Denver Broncos, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. I'm not very high on this guy, but other people are, and I think he feels the need for the Broncos. Um, the good thing about him is he is very disruptive. He has size, he has good strength, not great strength, and he has all the attributes. He shows a lot of flashes. Not very productive. That's my con on him. Not very productive, and doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves. Javon Kinlaw is a bit like a boxer. You know that boxer that they says has the boxer is very active. He's an active fighter, but doesn't have a lot of knockouts or knockdowns. That's him. He's the kind of active boxer who may win the fight on rounds but won't knock anybody out. That's him as a defensive tackle. He's active. It just might not get you anything. At number 16, the Atlanta Falcons, I believe, will shore up their secondary, which is a little thin, and take Florida prospect C.J. Henderson, 6'1", 202 pounds, who is a very instinctive ball player. He breaks on the ball very well, not afraid to come up and get that pick or at least knock the ball away. He's tall, he's fast, he's agile. He's a very good mirror corner. So if the corner's running deep, he's deep. The corner breaks off, he breaks on the ball. Very good mirror corner, and good feet. if I didn't say that. The only knock on him is he's not a very good tackler. He needs to improve in the strength department. I think once he does, that'll help his confidence and he'll become a better tackler. My comparison for him is somebody who is also a good instinctive corner who will jump routes for picks, but is not a very good tackler, and that is Marcus Peters. At 17, Dallas is trying to fill a lot of their holes on the defensive line by signing a lot of problem guys because they've overextended themselves financially. So they've signed Alden Smith and what's the name, Randall Gregory or Reggie Gregory, whoever. Um, but these are guys who haven't played for a couple of years. They were considered knuckleheads, even though Alden Smith has cleaned himself up. He still hasn't played in 4 years. But while they could go defensive end here, they could go with a guy out of LSU. I don't think they will because he's kind of almost the same thing Lawrence is. I think they'll go Xavier McKinney, safety out of Alabama. Either that or it's trade the 17th pick to the Jets and get that star safety they tried to get last year. But Xavier McKinney at 6'1", 200 pounds is a very good cover safety. He covers slot receivers and tight ends very well. He's also a good run defender, has a lot of experience, and he's very versatile. He needs to add some strength to help him in the tackling department. And a lot of people want to see a cover safety get more picks. But again, usually as a cover safety, if you're doing your job, you may not be getting a lot of picks because sometimes just being over the top prevents quarterbacks from throwing to that receiver. And he knocks a lot of passes down. I'd rather have a guy knock a pass down than give up a touchdown trying to get a pick. My comparison for him is Mika Fitzpatrick. Although others have picked other players, I'm not going that high with this guy, not just yet. 18. I think the Miami Dolphins will shore up that offensive line. They have no choice. They traded away Larry Tunsil to the Texans, so they're going to have to get some help at tackle. I think they'll go for the 6'5" to 311-pound tackle out of Houston, Joshua Jones. He's had a lot of starts. He has a lot of experience. Very athletic, very quick, very agile, and a very good zone blocker. When you have a young quarterback, they're probably going to run more of a zone blocking scheme. They're not going to just throw out a bunch of young guys in a bit of a Bob blocking type thing. Needs to work on his strength. He is a bit of a waist bender, and I don't think it's offensive for people to call him a project. I think, coming from Houston, he didn't see a lot of the top defensive linemen. So it doesn't bother me, but I think he'll fit with the right tutelage. At number 19, the Raiders are picking again, and I think they fill their wide receiver needs and go for Jerry Jeudy. Now, the good thing about the Raiders pick here is they could take Jeudy at 12 if Isaiah Simmons is gone, which he probably will be. Um, and in that case, if he is and they take him at 12, I think at 19, they take Kenneth Murray, who is a great middle linebacker, but is good enough to play outside. And if the Raiders signing, what's his name? I'm not going to say it right, so I'm not going to say it. Middle linebacker from Chicago. If he doesn't pan out, then you already have your replacement in Kenneth Murray. But if it works out the way I predict, then you get Jerry Jeudy at 19, and he or Jefferson, the receiver from LSU, could be here at 19. But he's 6'1", about 193 pounds, ran a 4.40. He's the best route runner in the entire draft. There's no one who runs better route this year than him. He's a complete all-around receiver. He can be your number one receiver, and for the Raiders, he will walk right into number one. The only con on him is you need to add a little more muscle to his frame. Comparison for him, I have him somewhere in between Mari Cooper and OBJ. May not be quite as explosive as OBJ, but I can see a little OBJ in him. The Jags, again, are tanking, so they're just going to fill spots with safe people on the line. And a safe person to select at 20 for the defensive line help, since you gave away everybody. They gave away Calais Campbell. They're giving away their other defensive end. They're just trading people left and right. Will be the defensive end out of Penn State, Yatur Gross Matos, if I got that right. 6'5", 266 pounds. Not a super athlete, but he has a lot of length. He drives well off the ball. He sheds blocks very well against the run. Limited speed. He needs to add more pass rush moves. And yeah, that's about what he is. He's a good run defender. And I believe he'll be more of a run stopping defensive end than a pass rushing defensive end. And you can't have too much of that. So yeah, I think he's going to be a bit of a Preston Smith. Okay, battery was starting to die a little bit there, but plugged it in. So here we go. At 21, Philly. I could definitely see Philly taking a receiver here. Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Justin Jefferson would be right there. He'd be available. Any receiver. What? Any receiver would fit at this point. And I think I dropped one. But here we go. But for me, I could definitely see them filling their other holes, their other needs, other than receiver. And here's why. Because there are about 50 draftable receivers in this draft, and you can get first round talent anywhere in the second round. But you can't get amazing talent at middle linebacker throughout the rest of the draft. So if he's still there, if the Raiders or someone else don't take him, I think Philly at 21 takes, again, Kenneth Murray, the best middle linebacker in this draft. And if it wasn't for Isaiah Simmons, he would be the best linebacker in the draft, period. 6'2", 243 pounds. He's a great sideline to sideline linebacker. Has a lot of great instincts. It's a great cover linebacker. He's great against the run. Um, he can play middle. He can play outside. The only knock on him is that he needs to work on shedding blocks a little more. And the takeaway from him, other than his athletic attributes and stats and skills on the field, is he is a world class leader. Um, his parents adopted about four special needs children, and he's very involved in their lives. He's very active with them. He is literally considered a great leader. So with his talent and his leadership skills, I will compare him to somebody who was also considered a leader and was criticized for being too light to play middle linebacker. And I know it sounds lofty, but I'm going to stick with it. My comparison for him is Ray Lewis. It's kind of hard to say that because it's Ray Lewis, but hey, it's Ray Lewis. At number 22, I think if he's still there, the Vikes will take Justin Jefferson, receiver out of LSU, 6'1", 202. Very good red zone wide receiver, good route runner, good hands. He's very good at high pointing the ball. Um, he'll be one of the better 50-50 receivers in this draft. He lacks what some call deep speed, but he still has very good speed. But him not being the deep threat receiver for some will be a turnoff, but he'll be very good with the 50-50 ball. The only other guy in the draft I can see being better than him is probably Sims out of Baylor, and that'll be because of height, not because of talent. Um, I liken him to a faster version of Michael Thomas. At 23, Um, the 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 Patriots, I believe, are tanking as well, either for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Both guys will be coming out next year, and the Patriots have a lot of draft capital and compensatory picks that they can all package together to move up in this year's draft or in next year's draft. They may be one of those teams moving up to get a guy like Tua, um, but one of the few teams that could help them could be the Niners, because they sort of helped the Niners with the Jimmy G trade, and the Niners are looking to trade too. The Niners may trade out of one or both of their first round picks. I think they'll trade out of the 31st to acquire more talent because their roster is getting a little heavy as well. They had to trade away a DeForest Buckner, and I think they're going to look to add some depth at various positions by trading back. But if the Patriots stay at 23, then I have them taking a safe pick that won't influence the win total, and that's AJ Impinensa, if I said that right. Defensive end out of Iowa, 6'6", 275. He's an edge setter. He does that very well. Very good hands, very strong. Um, Not fast, not a super athlete. Um, he needs to work on his redirection and his pass rush. My NFL comparison for him is Derek Wolf. At 24, now, okay, this is the team I forgot to mention, which was the New Orleans Saints. I could definitely see the New Orleans Saints moving up for Tua because you might as well get the guy who's being compared to Drew Brees when you're already coaching Drew Brees. And then imagine Drew Brees teaching Tua. Say no more. But if they stick and pick, I believe Justin Love could fall right to them if he's not taken by the Patriots. Because in my previous mock draft, I had the Patriots taking either Jordan Love or Easton, the quarterback out of Washington. But I could see them bypassing it and just waiting, either going up for Tua or someone else, or waiting for next year to get their next quarterback to replace Tom Brady. So for the Saints at 24, I have them taking Jordan Love. And the Saints are going to need three quarterbacks with the system that they run because you have Breeze and they use Taysom Hill as like their utility player. So if he gets hurt, you don't have a backup quarterback. And if Breeze gets hurt, which I hope doesn't happen, then you need a backup for a running quarterback. So they're going to have three quarterbacks as they did last year with Breeze, Taysom Hill, and Teddy Bridge. So Jordan Love at 6'3", 233, has a huge arm, and he's more of a scrambler than a runner, even though he can run well. He's great at avoiding sacks, and he makes magic happen. He has some issue with accuracy, but that's going to be to a lack of coaching, not a lack of ability. He does tend to lock on a receiver from time to time, and he tries to force plays. He could use a lot of help with his awareness. I do think he's one of the better quarterbacks in his draft. His stats don't reflect that from last year to this year, but that's due to a lack of talent around him, and they had coaching changes. So it's very obvious that last year's staff was better than this year's staff. He has a lot of upside, and a year behind a talented quarterback, especially one as as good as Drew Brees, would do him a lot of good. Again, very good at making magic happen, but the knock on him is that he tries to force the magic, and you end up in a lot of turnovers doing that. My comparison for him is Aaron Rodgers. They both have a bit of that ad lib, that jazz musician to their game. Great jazz musicians can read the music, they can play with everybody else, and then they can ad lib and just throw in crazy notes you didn't think of. And that's Aaron Rodgers, and for me, that's also Jordan Love. He's a jazz musician, just like Aaron Rodgers is. Uh, Kristen Fulton, I have going 25 again to the Vikes. I think they're going to try to shore up that secondary. I forgot the guy's name who they traded away, but he started to get beat towards the end of the year. But Fulton is 6 feet, 200, 200, yeah, right, 192 pounds. He fits in any scheme, whether you go press, zone, man, he fits. There's nothing he can't do. He has very quick feet, um, and he was very good against the top receivers in this year's draft. Against Jefferson, against Ruggs, he was very good against the top talent. He's very aggressive. So, with his style of play, he will draw a lot of penalties at the NFL level if he doesn't learn to taper off the aggression after 5 yards. He's going to get a lot of penalties. But that's something that can be fixed with experience and coaching. He could be, he could be another Marshawn Lattimore. I don't think he's the second coming, but with the proper tutelage, he could be another Marshawn Lattimore. 26. The Dolphins, again, if you're going to take a quarterback, you're going to take a tackle, you might as well fill all of your other offensive needs and get DeAndre Swift. Running back out of Georgia, 5'11", 216, ran about a solid 4.5 at the 40. People were expecting a 4.3. I don't know what they were watching. Um, Even at a 4.5, because of his vision and great body and his agility while running the ball, he does have home run ability as a running back. He has good hands. He's a good route runner. He's a very flexible runner, which means he doesn't have to jerk his body around to make jukes, to make moves. He doesn't have to pull out a strain on his knees and his joints to get around defenders. Very flexible, very limber, and he has good field vision. So he shouldn't be in the NFL making a lot of jump cuts and dangerous jukes, um, because he's that fluid of a runner. The only knock on him is going to be picking up blitz packages. He didn't have to do that a lot at Georgia. Again, it's Georgia, so they run the ball a lot. Um, and then Brom gets rid of the ball uh, fairly quickly. So, yeah, he's working on his blitz pickups. And for me, I believe he's still developing. He's still getting better. He shared carries at Georgia. That's what they do. They make sure their backs don't over exert themselves in the carry department. My comparison for him, I believe he's somewhere between Josh Jacobs and Alvin Kamara. What is this? 27. Seattle. Seattle hasn't signed Clowney yet. They may not. Uh, Clowney wants a large contract. Nobody's really willing to pay it right now. But whether he signs or not, I believe they will take Clavon Chason, edge rusher out of LSU. Very raw pass rusher, in my opinion. Um, Needs a little work at the linebacker position, but he should be able to play it in certain zones, certain schemes. He should be good in the flat. 6'4", 254. He's fast. He's mobile. He's agile. He has a good burst off the line. Good first step. Good active hands. Is a versatile defender. Um, he needs to be better against the run. Sometimes he can get washed a little bit, or he can get pinned in against the run when they run the ball at him. Needs experience, and he does have injury concerns. The last thing you want is a fast guy off the edge with leg problems. My comparison for him is another former Pete Carroll guy, and that's Bruce Irving. Pete Carroll tends to like these long, limber, 250, 260 pound edge rushers, these combo guys who can play outside, back end, rush in. So I believe he's right in that mode of a Bruce Irvin. Um, at 28, Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen came on. Forget the other young man's name. What he subbed in for somebody and never left the starting job. Linebacker, also out of LSU, 6'1", 229. Very fast. Very fast, especially for a linebacker. Another sideline to sideline linebacker. Um, let's see. Can't see what I wrote. Bad penmanship. But he's good in coverage, and he's good blitzing off the edge. I think he'll be a good fit in Baltimore because he won't have to do that much. He can sort of freelance or just stick to a specific scheme. With all that talent in Baltimore, he'll be able to flow to the ball, and he should be able to cover slot receivers and tight ends because there are a lot of them in the AFC. The only knock on him is experience. He doesn't have a lot of starts in college football, which means he needs to develop all of his skills a little more. But while he's developing, he will be able to rely on his speed and tenacity to make plays. My NFL comparison for him is Miles Jack. 29, I believe the Titans will shore up their secondary with A.J. Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. 6'1", 195, good body, long, tall. It's a good press corner, good physical corner, and very good against the run. And in that division, you're going to need that at the cornerback position. A lot of people are giving him flack for his performance against Clemson. Against LSU. But every corner's had a bad day, and their offensive scheme was superb. So it is what it is. Um, yeah, needs to work on his strength and just overall development. But he will be very good. The thing with me with Terrell is that he projects very well as a press or zone corner. I don't think he's going to be great as a man-to-man corner, which is kind of the problem you saw against LSU. For me, he sort of fits in that old Green Bay defensive scheme, almost like a Al Harris or a Mike McKenzie type corner. I know that's going a few years back, but that's the kind of press zone corner I think he is. Bit of an Al Harris, Mike McKenzie type corner, which is good because them boys played about a good 10 years, if not more. And 10 years in the NFL is 10 years in the NFL. And if you're a zone corner for a decade, you're just a zone corner for a decade. You don't want that check? I'll take it. Uh, at 30, the Green Bay Packers get a guy who only has to go down the street. Zach Bond, linebacker out of Wisconsin, 6'2", 240. Good edge rusher. A lot of tackles in the backfield. Very good at zone coverage. Well, let me not say very good. He's good at zone coverage. He could always get better. Good run stopper. Very smart. High IQ linebacker. He needs to shore up his strength because some people like him in a 3-4 scheme. I don't think he's going to be that great in the 3-4 scheme. I think he's more 4-3 than 3-4. But it wouldn't hurt to get some strength no matter what he does and improve his man skills. His zone skills would be good enough. My comparison for him is Cal Van Noy. And also, I could also see Zach Bond going at 28 to Baltimore instead of Patrick Queen, and Queen going to. You can swap either one of these guys for me, and it still works. Now, at 31, the Niners, I believe, will trade out of this pick. But if they don't, they'll probably take the best available player, or I think what they'll do is they'll fill a hole they just created for themselves by trading DeForest Buckner to the Colts. which they say was one of the hardest things to do in this offseason was trading away because they like him that much. But DeForest Buckner is a unique build. He's 6'7" or 6'8", 300+ pounds, and can play different spots on the line of scrimmage, which is why I think they'll take Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle out of Alabama, who is 6'7", 311 pounds. And I think they will, he's a run stopper. He has good hands. He projects as a nose tackle, but in that system, I think they'll line him up at end from time to time, maybe at defensive end in their 3-4 scheme, because they sort of play with their schemes from 3-4 to 4-3. He'll be very good on goal line and a bit of a goal line set or a 5-2 set. The problem with Raekwon Davis is, one, he shouldn't be drafted in the first round. He should be like second to fourth. But at 31, that's the end of the first and basically the beginning of the second. So this would be a bit of a reach, but not too far of a reach for a team that doesn't really need him. This would be a reach if he was going in the 20s, not second to last pick in the third. I mean, I'm sorry, in the first. The problem with him is consistency. He looks like he takes plays off. He lacks production. While disruptive, not a lot of production. And doesn't really have a pass rush. He kind of just bull rushes and just sort of like plows his way through and just sort of makes plays that way. My comparison for him is not an actual comparison. I do not think he is good. He is as good as DeForest Buckner. But I do think they will take him and have him fill that DeForest Buckner role. I think there's a difference in filling a role and being the second coming. And I think they'll take him to fill a role. At 32, Chiefs don't need anything. They just won a Super Bowl. They will probably just fill spots here and there. I think they will take Lloyd Cushenberry. I love saying that name. If he if he were interested in opening his own dispensary, Cushenberry would be a great name for weed. But yeah, center out of LSU, 6'3", 312. Very good zone blocker. Very smart. He made a lot of calls on the offensive line. Can get to the second level pretty well. Needs to work on his strength because he didn't do a very good job against that big man from Auburn, Derek Brown. Derek Brown sort of gave him the business a little bit. So if you had problems with Derek Brown, you're gonna have some problems. So he needs to work on his strength and his footwork because he's a little slow-footed, heavy-footed, whatever you want to call it. He needs to work on that. But in the right scheme, they can kind of hide him. And with Andy Reid could hide me in a scheme, and I can't play center, but he could scheme it to where I'm not so bad. Also, my comparison for him is Matt Paradis, who just signed with the Panthers. So solid center, not a super athlete, not really a pull center, zone center. So that kind of fits. And that is the first round for me. That is my mock draft for the first round. I'm not even going to try to cover the second because you never know. But I do think there'll be a minimum of 5 trades. It is possible you will see 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. So that would be Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, Love, and I still think somebody may go ahead and take Easton, even though I didn't put him in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if someone did. One of those teams could be New England. I would not be surprised. And then somebody could trade out of the first round, and whoever trades in could take the 5th quarterback. I don't think Braum will be selected in the first round. I think if somebody trades up to the first round to get another quarterback, it will be for Easton out of Washington. I do think there will be a major run on receiver and offensive tackle in the top 15, and that will cause some of the receivers to fall because there are so many of them. I think people will take a chance on filling their obvious needs in the first round and filling their wants in the second, because everybody wants a receiver. So yeah, I'm Aaron Absolute. That is my mock draft. And at all times, enjoy yourself.